Welcome to the Super Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the new Super Gamer Podcast, episode 149. Our guest this week is a retro gaming collector, a retro console refurbisher, probably not the right term, fixer, but definitely a Master System, Sega Master System aficionado and collector. We have 8BitBoy. Thank you for being here.
Thanks ever so much for having me. Thank you.
So the reason I first contacted you and wanted to interview you, so the Master System to me, so I grew up, the first console I had was the Atari, so it's not like I'm in a different era. But the Master System was something I didn't really, like I was a Nintendo kid, and my brother had a Master System, but I kind of got into it later, and remember as a kid being like, oh my goodness, like this is really good. Like how did I not know about, I think I knew about the Genesis before I knew about the Master System. And I love the Master System, especially Ghouls and Ghosts for Master System, I think is like one of the best games ever. The best version of that game for sure. Castle of Illusion and Shinobi and all that. Just love them. So anyway, that's why you're here.
Yeah, I mean, all classic games. And, I speak to a lot of people across the other side of the pond in the States and Canada. And it's a similar story, really. I think Nintendo had a lot of the market cornered. They did a great job at protecting their IPs and also the third parties that supported them. So Sega really needed to think on their feet on how they would sort of take them head on. So a lot of people, like I say, across the way, really heard about the Genesis first.
Yeah, and one more thing before we get more into you. The thing about the Master System that blew my mind was, what, did you have to hold like up and select or something? And there was just a maze game built into it.
That's right, yeah. So my first Model 1 that I got for my 11th birthday had the same. And there was no internet back then, of course. So it was just another kid in the playground that had mentioned something like, oh, have you found the secret game yet? And I was like, no, what's that? And he said, yeah, just hold up and press like 1 and 2 together and you'll get the secret snail maze, which was awesome, which was great.
You have more than 300 Master System games. You have all of the games from the PAL region, which is 269, if I'm not mistaken. Although technically, I mean, there's some, I believe Portugal had 2 exclusives, and I think somewhere else had an exclusive. Do you have those games?
Not yet. So I've got the full PAL set, but the Euro set is an additional 2 games. So those really are very sought after and very, very difficult to get. I probably will pick them up if I ever see them, but I've got a couple of friends scouting them out for me in Portugal, but they do not come up very often. But the PAL set was great fun to hunt down and collect. I probably had more fun with thrill of the hunt, so to speak, and making so many new friends over the last 3 or 4 years to find all of those. And my wife sort of calls it my midlife crisis. But I didn't buy a sports car or anything. I bought 300 Master System games. I mean, I had some of them from when I was a kid, but yeah, the bulk of them I bought in the last sort of 2, 3, 4 years, I guess.
Right. So you just mentioned you have some of your games from when you were a kid. I believe you still have your old Master System, which actually survived a house fire. So it's gone a long way to get here.
Yeah, so we did unfortunately have house fire when I was a kid. And my mum said to us, we went to a hotel while we were, while the the place was being rewired. Not very well, obviously, I might add. But yeah, the electrics and the rewiring was being redone. And my mum said, right, well, you can bring one thing with you. So I said, right, well, I'll take my Master System with me then. So luckily the Master System and a handful of games survived, which I still have. And it's sort of, my pride and joy in the collection, really. Everything else I can replace, but that just for sentimental reasons, that's the original one that I've had now for 31, 32 years. So yeah, very pleased to still have it with me.
Is there anything game-wise that you actually like sold or traded, and then when you realized, oh, I want to collect all these, you had to go find again?
No, I did move to the US a few years ago and sold all of my collection, and the one thing I kept was my Master System, and I was probably up to 30 or 40 games by then. So I just left them with my mum because we sold the house, we sold everything when we moved to the States, which we then had our reasons for coming back to England when we'd kind of done everything that we wanted to out there. So I started my retro collection again, but luckily still had my Master System stuff. So yeah, I'm very fortunate. I've never really sold, certainly on the Master System side of things, I've never sold anything that I've then turned back and thought, why on earth did I do that? You know, I've sold plenty of other stuff that I've thought, oh God, if I could have that back now, you know, but yeah, luckily on the Master System, no.
How did it feel when you finally got, after 30 years you'd wanted this, you finally got Phantasy Star? How did that feel?
So Phantasy Star was a really iconic game back in the day, and it was the game that I kind of was always hinting to my parents that I wanted, and unfortunately never got. I think I must have just run out of steam or something and just stopped pestering them, but for whatever reason I badgered them for ages and just didn't get it. So when I got it in quite a big bulk purchase, it was pretty special, and I put it in and played it for a little while, and I had a really strange feeling. It wasn't quite nostalgia because I hadn't really played it before, but it was, yeah, just a real excitement for playing a game that I wanted for so long. And yeah, I really enjoyed playing through it. I've still not finished it because it is quite a long game, but I'm getting there slowly.
But it lived up to the hype. You didn't turn it on. You're like, oh, why did I even want this?
I've done that with other things, but no, I guess I was quite lucky, really. I had seen, because there's such a long time had lapsed, like 30 odd years or something, that I had seen other people play it, and I'd seen YouTube videos and stuff like that. So I knew it was a really cool game. I played a lot of Master System games up to that point, and it really is, it's definitely my top 10, without a doubt.
So we talked about those couple exclusive games in Portugal, and you said you've got some people out in Portugal helping you out there. And it is funny to me, it's cool that this collection of yours is an international affair. Can you tell us, how did someone in Germany help you find a rare game?
Right, okay, so so I go on, I'm not really that, prevalent on social media. I do a lot on Twitter because I enjoy that, but I don't really go on much else. But I have been using the Master System fan forums for quite a few years, and I always would put messages on there to say, oh, I'm looking for these this month, can anybody help? And there was a chap that I'd been talking to for quite a long time, but I didn't know he would have any spares, and he was out in Germany, and he said, sure, I've got one of these if you're interested. And it was one of the games that I'd been dreading to try and find out in the wild, because it was really quite difficult to find. It was Assault City, which in itself isn't that rare, but with the PAL set, you've actually got to have it twice in the collection, because there was a variant that came out that was used with the Sega Light Phaser exclusively. So you do need both for the full set. So this Light Phaser version really is quite tricky to find. So he had it. He got in touch through the forums, which to anybody, I definitely recommend you check out forums. You can go and find out as much as you can, do your research. You can find out a lot more from other collectors than you will from anybody else. And yeah, he sold it to me for a really, like, a gentleman's price. He wasn't making any money on it or anything. And yeah, I got really lucky and made a good friend in the process.
Can I ask, you don't have to answer, how much do you think you've spent on retro gaming?
I suppose because I've sold up once already in 2015, 2016, I sold up, and then I've started again. But if you put them both together, I would think I've spent I would think probably daft money, but probably on retro gaming, I would say it's probably not far between £7,000 and £8,000 with everything, because I don't have loads of Nintendo stuff, but I have some, and the stuff that I do have, I've spent good money on because it's in really nice condition and all fully boxed and stuff. Most of my stuff is Sega, though.
All right. So yeah, to get to 300 plus Master System games, obviously you need more than the 269 from the PAL region. You have some homebrew games, for example. How do you even go? Is this something like when someone releases a new homebrew game? Because I know that's a thing for various old systems.
Yeah.
Is that something you track? Do you get excited? Like, oh, a new Master System game.
Yeah, very much so. It's a bit like being a kid again. And I actively try to stalk people on Twitter and the forums, and wherever I can, really, just to find out when they've mentioned something. Right, when are we going to get a physical copy? Have you thought about how you're going to design the manual? Is it going to have a manual? What about the box art? I'm a really big fan of the Master System box art, so when there's new box art coming out, I'm all over it. So yeah, the homebrews, we're really lucky on the Master System that it's so well supported. And over at smspower.org, they run a competition every spring, which they just opened the one for 2023 in the last week or so. And we get a competition every year where people throw their entries, their names into the hat. And usually we get sort of 10 or 12 brand new games every year. Some are not as good as others, it goes without saying. And some are just ports of other games. So the winner last year was Green Beret, or what others might remember as, was it called Russian Attack, I think? I'm trying to think what console it was called that on. Might have been the Nintendo, I can't remember. But yeah, so we get some good ones, and then other people hack existing games with clever pieces of software that they've used to make brand new games. So, and yeah, it's really exciting to me, really interesting. I don't know how to do it myself, unfortunately, but yeah, it's like getting new games every year on the system that you love.
Yeah, and like, does your interest in that, like, does it go beyond nostalgia? Like, I know you play new games as well. I know, like, you're a big fan of Elden Ring and all that. Like,
yep.
when a new Master System game gets released, is Master System your preferred console to actually play on, or is it sort of like, well, this reminds me of being a kid, and so I like it, but I still, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. So I probably, like anybody, I probably go through phases. At the moment, like this year so far, I've played an absolute ton of my Master System, and honestly, I've just been a little bit less motivated, maybe even bored even of my PS5. Elden Ring last year was absolutely phenomenal, but yeah, I mean, I played it kind of to death, like most people have, I guess, and I'll probably go back to it. I'll probably play it again at some point, but I definitely have a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm for the Master System still, and I'm playing that more than ever right now.
And one more thing about homebrew games, you've got a video on how to tell a real game from a fake game, or a real cartridge, fake cartridge.
Right, yeah.
And fake doesn't necessarily mean, like, when I first opened the video, I thought, like, someone slapped a sticker on, like, something that doesn't work, but what you meant is like a reproduction that someone may have made of a game versus the actual official game. So you use Buggy Run as an example.
Yeah.
And you use your copy of the actual game and a reproduction of the game. So my first question, why and how did you get a reproduction copy?
That's such an excellent question. So probably about a year, 18 months ago, I got to the point in the collection where the games were really starting to get quite expensive. And there were still a lot of cheap ones I needed as well, but some of them were getting pricey. Like Buggy Run, I knew was, even if I got lucky, was going to be like £300. And if I was unlucky, it could be £400 or £500. You know, so I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's a lot.
In Canadian, it's quite a bit.
In Canadian as well, sure, absolutely. So I'd spotted a chap, French Terry, we called it, Thierry, that was his name, French chap that was a kart modder, and he had made a copy of Buggy Run. It didn't look great, but you know, it did the job. And I thought, do you know what? I don't think I'm going to be up for spending thousands. How little I knew back then, but I thought to myself, I don't know, I've got the appetite to spend thousands to get like maybe just 10 or 15 of these big hitters, so to speak. So I just bought it, and I bought it off him for about 35 euros, something like that, which wasn't cheap for a repro, but there we are. And it sat in the collection, and it was only when I met a chap who already had a full set, and I got really pally with him and really friendly with him, and he helped me so much on my collecting journey. And he then made an introduction to a different collector who he knew that was selling up. So the both of us went on a bit of a road trip in 2021 to basically look at all of these big hitter games that I was like the first one through the door. So I got the opportunity to cherry pick the sort of the 10 or 12 games that I really wanted. And I did have to bite the bullet and put down quite a lot of money. But it was at that point when I then thought, okay, I've now got the games that were really going to cause a problem, and they're now in my possession. So I can now, I'm probably now in a prime position to finish off the set, and B, I probably don't need that repro copy of Buggy Run anymore. So I ended up selling that on to another friend. Before I did, I made this video just to try and help a few people out and to demonstrate some of the pitfalls, because unfortunately, I wouldn't say that it's rife, but there is a growing number of reproduction carts out there that people, perhaps a bit less unscrupulous than most, are trying to pass off as genuine. So I thought, right, I will do a little video just to help people out on some of the pitfalls and how they can spot a fake compared to a genuine copy, which at that point I fortunately had both.
In the vein of homebrew, do you see any value of owning an unofficial copy?
So in homebrew specifically, sometimes they get very, very limited runs. And so I bought a couple last year that you can't even get the ROM. So you can't play it unless you buy it. And the French company that made them only made 30 of each. So that's probably, although they're homebrews, they're extremely sought after. So yeah, I mean, you know, I will definitely be picking up as many as I can. Some of them aren't cheap, and some of the kart modders that I speak to they're artists. They're very, very good at what they do, very talented, but they've got to buy materials. Of course, it takes a lot of their time to come up with the artwork and to actually put the copy of the ROM onto the cartridge and all this sort of stuff. So it's quite a costly hobby for them, and they've got to make their money back. And I would expect them to make a little bit of profit because it does take them so much time. I wouldn't expect them to do it for nothing. So yeah, it can be quite costly. as a hobby in general, just on the homebrews alone.
But I guess, like for example, the repro of Buggy Run, as a collector, is there any sort of like, well, this in itself is rare? You know, do you see any value in owning like somebody just made this?
Right. So specifically on the repros of licensed games, honestly, no. I think anybody could do it, and for a few dollars, I mean, you can, if you do your research, you can buy one of these cartridge writing things. You can get yourself donor cartridge, you know, a cheap copy of Afterburner or whatever on eBay. You only need the cartridge, and then if you know your way around one of these applications on your laptop, and you're quite good at art, you could probably design your own box art. You know, so but no, I don't think there's really any value in owning the reproductions, unfortunately.
You talked about the community that you've got involved in and how great they are. You just mentioned, you told a story about going with another collector to buy some games. Have you ever run into, this has happened to me once, and I don't think this friend listens to this show, so good. But I brought him to a retro gaming store. This is years and years ago, a local store here where I am.
Okay.
And you know, I was kind of showing him the ropes, I felt like, and a game that I really wanted was Super Mario RPG. And he, very quick on the draw, went, "I'll take that." I was like, ooh. Have you ever run into, like, oh no, I got or they got the game that I wanted, and now we have beef?
Yeah, absolutely. Collecting for anything that's sought after, when there's lots of other people all after the same stuff, it's quite a small pond that we all fish in. So that, yeah, you definitely tread on toes. Fortunately, there's a couple of groups that I'm in on WhatsApp, and you know, there's a really good Twitter group that I'm in with a friendly bunch. And if there's something that one of us really, really wants, we can kind of call dibs on it, and the others won't go for it on eBay. Specifically in shops and shows, I can't think of an example, but most of my stuff has tended to be either swap deals with a lot of friends, or I've had to purchase it on eBay or something. So yeah, people are usually pretty good, and let me, if I spot it first, that is, they let me sort of have my way and go for it.
Speaking of fishing, do you have a favorite fishing game? And what is it? I know you yourself are a fisher. Like, what makes a good fishing game?
Wow, okay. What a cool question. So yeah, I love my fishing. I've fished all my life. I don't go quite as often now with having children and stuff, but I still try to get out 3-4 times a year. I do play some fishing games, although I can't think of any that I'm playing right now. But probably some of the best memories I have of playing fishing games was with all of my mates, because they all fished when we grew up as well on the PS1. And it was a lot of the PS1 stuff was a lot of fishing for fish in America, like Action Bass and games like Fisherman's Bait and Basson's Black Bass and stuff like that, and all like bass fishing games. Obviously, when I moved to the US much later on in life, I was then able to sort of realize a dream and go fishing and actually go and catch bass that we don't have in England. So, but yeah, I would say a lot of the PS1 games bring back a lot of nostalgia, and I'll probably be trying to bump up my PS1 collection this year and add a lot of those back into the collection.
What is the Master System Challenge?
Okay, so yeah, the Master System Challenge is a whole bunch of videos. If you come across it on YouTube, you might think, what on earth are all these people up to? But yeah, it was an idea that I came up with to put a new video out every single week and challenge people to a new game that I would pick. And we've been doing it now. This is our third year, I think, just coming up to challenge 93 or 94, I think, from memory. And yeah, I mean, I pick a game and I play it. I put the video out, tell people what the rules are. And some weeks we get 10 people try and beat my score and try and do a high score or whatever. And some weeks we get sort of 40 or 50 people compete. When you pick a game like Sonic the Hedgehog or something that everybody knows and everybody enjoys, you tend to get a lot more participation than you would if you pick something that's a bit lesser known. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I think everybody really enjoys it. I think a lot of people really look forward to it on a Saturday morning. They sort of switch their TV on, and it's sort of the first thing that they want to look for on YouTube to see, right, what challenge has he got for us this week?
Your week one challenge, you were doing a speedrun of Green Hill Zone in Sonic, and in your video, I can see you in the reflection, and you're standing up. Do you normally stand up when you play games?
No, not at all. I'm a lot more relaxed these days. And the first challenge really was just a bit of a laugh. It was, I remember it was Easter time, and there were just 4 of us, and we were all chatting on Twitter. And I said, right, okay, well, see how quick you can do this then. So I videoed it, literally just balancing my phone on some boxes on my chair, so there was nowhere to sit. so yeah, and I threw the challenge down, and then I was trying to be clever because I didn't think anybody would know the trick on that level, but they soon cottoned onto it, and we had quite a few other people join in, and they then said, why don't we do another one? So I then did another challenge, which I'm trying to remember. I think challenge 2 might have been California Games, perhaps. So I then said, right, well, okay, try and beat this score then. So, and then we just kept doing it every week, and it just became a really good excuse to have a lot of fun, a lot of banter, and I've made a lot of really good friends doing it.
You have a homebrew, going back to this, you have a homebrew Wolfenstein 3D from Mega Drive that you got signed by John Romero. Now, as it's homebrew, there is no Wolfenstein 3D for Mega Drive. Was Romero cool with that? Did he kind of go like,
So, John Romero is a complete gentleman. I was fortunate enough to meet him and his wife, Brenda, I think her name was, both lovely. And I queued up for quite a while to buy this signed poster that they had, and to also go and watch his interview at this place that I'd gone to. And I just was very cheeky, and I said, would you mind signing this as well, please? And he was absolutely great. He didn't mind at all. I'm sure he knew absolutely what it was. But yeah, he signed it. He was happy to do it, and there was no problem. He was such a nice chap.
I do have to mention, you beat Super Smash TV last year. Congratulations. It's a game a friend of mine has on Super Nintendo, and he and I we got quite good at it. I'd argue he's the only person I know who's better than me at that game, and then we could just like play it straight through again and again. Anyway, congrats. Great game and hard game.
It was a tough game. I think it was probably made and developed so that you would have to spend a lot of money to complete it, because it was on the arcade where we finished it. But yeah, had a lot of fun, and finished it with a really good mate as well, who, for him, I hadn't really played it, but he had played it a ton as a kid, so it was quite nice for him to finish it with me as well.
What's your most prized possession? I have a guess, but I don't want to lead the witness here, so I'll just ask.
My most prized possession, I mean, it probably, just because I couldn't replace my original Master System that is boxed, and anything else, whilst it would be difficult to replace, I just couldn't get my childhood Master System again. That's the one thing that is priceless, really. But no, I guess the most difficult thing to find was what we call, I guess, a grail game, if you will, was probably my copy of either Masters of Combat, which was just really expensive, or last year I picked up a copy of Donald Duck limited edition, collector's edition, which is the only Master System game to have got that sort of treatment. And there were only a few of them ever made. And I found one in a shop. The owner knew exactly what it was, but just being a really nice chap, said, "Look, I know you might not ever even see one again, so let's work out a deal." And we did do, and he was an absolute gentleman about it.
And that was my guess, because that one almost brought you to tears.
It did. Yeah, I couldn't. I sort of started welling up in the shop, and I was like, "Come on, pull yourself together. What are you doing?" But yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was shocked when I said, "Look, I'll pay this and I'll trade these games." And he said, "Yeah, okay." And I was a bit surprised, but he's just such a good guy that I don't know why I was surprised. I think he was just more than happy to do the deal, and he could see I was really happy.
8-Bit Boy, thank you for being here. People can check you out on YouTube, 8, the number 8, BitBoyUK, and on Twitter, 8BitBoyUK. Anywhere else people can check you out, and anything else you want people to know?
Just Twitter, really. I'm on Twitter most of the time. I try to make 2-3 new videos on YouTube every week, which I really enjoy. So yeah, if you enjoy the Master System and you want to come and check me out, then I'd be glad to chat with you.
8-Bit Boy, thank you so much.
Thanks ever so much, Mark. It's been an absolute pleasure.